topic that we have tonight, if you haven't felt it before, you probably know someone who has. If you haven't been through this topic called resentment, you probably know someone that has, and if you have been through it, or if you're in it right now, tonight some things are going to be uncovered. Some things are going to be identified tonight. If you notice, my subject says, resentment, the silent marriage killer. When something is silent, when an airplane, a stealth, when he comes in under radar, and he swoops in, and he's very quiet. He's very silent. In other words, he creeps up on you, and before you know it, he's up on you. It's the element of surprise. So when we talk about resentment, a lot of times that thing can come in your marriage and unawares until you to the point where you almost talking separation or you're talking divorce if you're not careful. So my scripture tonight is coming from Philippians 3:13 and 14. Let's read what that says, and then we're going to go ahead and get into our session tonight. Philippians 3:13 and 14. It says, brethren, I count not myself to have apprehended, but this one thing I do, forgetting those things which are behind and reaching forth unto those things which are before. I press toward the mark for the prize of the high calling of God in Christ Jesus. That scripture is going to be my foundation for tonight on how to get beyond and get past resentment. Y'all with me? The question is asked tonight, is there resentment within my marriage? Before we can answer that question, we first need to know what resentment is. What is resentment? If someone says that I resent what you did, or I resent you, I looked that word up. Now, of course, we have our own definitions we can say, but I looked it up. It says here resentment. Resentment is bitter indignation. I think we put the definition of indignation up there. It says bitter indignation toward someone, your spouse, for being treated unfairly. Bitter indignation towards someone or your spouse for being treated unfairly. Now, what is indignation? That's a pretty big word. What is indignation? Indignation says it's anger or annoyance provoked by what is perceived. See, she got the quotations on there, and I'm seeing it right. That's good. And it's underlined as unfair treatment. Notice it said perceived. Whenever it says perceived, it's what you feel. It's what you think. Irregardless of what the other person is saying or what the other person is feeling. It's what the person that feels like, hey, I am indignant right now. I am angry. I am annoyed because I'm perceiving you to be unfair to me. There are some things you're doing that is unfair that I don't like. So if it goes unchecked, in the beginning, resentment resembles, I resent what you did. I resent how you just talked to me. I resent how you scream at me. I resent the thing that is happening. But if unchecked, not dealt with, after a while, it'll start being, I resent you. I'm resenting the fact that you're doing this to me. That's where we are now. But unchecked, this right here will begin to be, I'm resenting you. There are some things we're going to talk about to let you know if you're headed in that direction in your marriage, or you may know someone that you can help in this what we're talking about tonight. Are we headed in the direction of resentment? Is resentment now in my marriage? And if it is in my marriage, what can I do, or what can we do together collectively as a couple to eradicate resentment? Give you a story. Once upon a time, there was a man named Robert. Robert was married to Kathy. Robert and Kathy had been married for 15 years. During the course of their marriage, what was the man's name? Robert. What was the lady's name? Kathy. Y'all still with me? Over the course of their marriage, it was 15 years. During the whole 15 years, Miss Kathy would say to Mr. Robert, listen, please stop making big purchases without talking to me first. Okay, we in this together. I make money, you make money, we put it in an account, so it's our money. But when you go out and you purchase rims for your vehicle, you purchase big ticket items, new stereo system for your vehicle, you're purchasing things that really is not a need. And when something comes up that's a need, we're kind of scrambling trying to get that need met because you keep purchasing stuff and we don't talk about it. You just go ahead and do it. Kathy is a bit perturbed. Kathy is a bit upset because she's been saying that from year 1. They are now in year 15. All right, how many years have they been married?
15.
Why is Kathy a bit bothered by what Robert is doing? Because what's happening with Robert? What are you doing?
Making big purchases.
He's making big purchases. Okay, y'all still with me? So, Miss Kathy is like, we in year 15. We've been talking about this almost all 15 years. At what point, Mr. Robert, are you going to get it? I know to you it ain't no big deal. But to me, it is. And if you care about me the way that you say you do, if you love me the way you say you do, because it's a concern of mine, you will help me address it. We will address this thing together. But Robert, he don't see it as no big deal because it's not affecting him. Things that don't affect us and it affect other people, if we are not in tune with our mate, we will sometimes just skate over it like it ain't no big deal. It happens. Now Kathy is now wondering, am I settling into resentment? Because in year 1, 2, and 3, I kept talking to you about the big purchases. You kept making the big purchases, and right to this day, you're making the big purchases. I resent them rims. I don't even want to ride in the car. I resent the rims that you keep buying and upgrading this and doing this. You out there trying to buy a new car and don't even talk to me. I just find out because I see the inquiry on your credit report. You're doing these things, and it bothers me, but if you act like Robert, it's no big deal. So now, we fast forward to 12 years, 13 years in the marriage. Now when she see Robert coming, she got some facial expressions. She get the sighing. Now, it was gradual. It didn't start out like that, Pastor. It got to that point because it was undealt with. It was small. The Bible says that it's the foxes, the small foxes that spoil the vine. In other words, if you don't deal with them small foxes when they are small, eventually they're going to turn into raving wolves. Now, you really got a big problem. I heard Pastor say in one of his sessions when he was talking, he said, okay, would you rather be towed in or would you rather drive in? Right? Would you rather be towed in or would you rather drive in? In other words, now your engine block cracked. Now we got to pay all this money to get you towed in when it was small, when the oil light was coming on, just saying you didn't use oil in the car, it's going to be all right. You didn't deal with it. So now, Miss Captain now is saying, I'm resenting you. And some of the symptoms of that is when she see him coming, her facial expression changes. When she see him coming, she's sighing and breathing all heavy. And just her whole countenance falls when she see him coming. Those are symptoms of resentment. Because it wasn't dealt with because Mr. Robert didn't see it as a problem early on. So now she's looking at him sideways because you didn't think enough of what I was perceiving to be an issue to deal with it. Let's talk about these factors. I may not be able to get to all of them, but what I want to talk about right now is how do you identify? How do you identify? Are you on the road to resentment? Are you in resentment right now? How do you identify it? Because sometimes people will sometimes, you all have heard people say, and a lot of times it be women will say, I feel like I'm falling out of love with him. Y'all have heard that before. Or I feel like I'm falling out of love with her. You was once in love, but now you're feeling like the love is fleeting. I'm feeling like I'm falling out of love. Sometimes we can mix falling out of love with resentment. It could be simply resentment. I shouldn't say simply, but it could be resentment versus you actually falling out of love with your mate. So that's what we want to talk about. How do we identify if that's the road that we're on? And if that is the road that we're on, or you know someone that's on that road, what do you do in order to get on the path to correct it? So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. What causes resentment? What are some of the factors that make resentment come into play? In Kathy and Robert's scenario, Kathy begins to feel like she's resenting Robert because over and over and over again, she began to feel like you could care less about how I feel. It's a sad commentary to feel like the husband or the wife, either one, feel like the mate, thank you sir, I do appreciate it, the husband or the wife do not care enough about what I'm perceiving to do something about it. So now, that's one of, there's many, but that's one of the causes of someone being on the road to resentment, or they are already in resentment. The feeling can be caused by several different situations. However, they are all involve a sense of injustice or wrongdoing from an individual. That's what Kathy was feeling. For example, public humiliation, constant discrimination or prejudice, being taken advantage of, feeling unrecognized, envy, jealous. Perhaps someone said mean or hurtful things to the person. They said thoughtless things to the person, or did not do enough in terms of what the resentful person feels should have happened. Robert didn't do nothing, Keisha. Robert went on continuing buying his big ticket items. Those who experience this constantly, those who experience this type of behavior, they constantly will replay it in their minds. They replay the thoughts in their minds and the feelings that are related to the unjust event, and often refuse to forgive and move on. So, when two people don't communicate about the small problems and work towards a solution, it just gets bigger. It just gets bigger. So, let's look at our factors here. Number one says, treat yourself and trust. Trust yourself and your feelings. How dare Robert says to Kathy, you just too sensitive. Oh, it ain't that big of a deal. Oh, you're making a mountain out of a molehill. How dare you tell the person how they should feel when they feeling some kind of way about if they feeling this unfair treatment, or how you talk to me, the way you address me, the way you take me for granted. So now you're actually going to tell me how I should feel. So when it says trust yourself and your feelings, if Kathy is feeling some kind of way, if you are feeling some kind of way, you have to trust that it's not your imagination. It's not your imagination. If you are, now notice in my story, how many years have they been together?
15.
Has she been imagining this for 15 years? So you trust what's going on with you, and now you got to articulate that to your mate. Now, the mate will either receive and work on that thing, and let's get this thing together, or be like Robert. Robert's still buying high-ticketed items because Robert does not see it being an issue. Don't see it being a problem. Let me read what my note says about trust yourself and your feelings. Trust yourself and your feelings. Some people don't bring up their feelings because they don't trust that their feelings are valid. Sometimes you'll talk yourself out of how you feeling. I shouldn't feel this way. I should not feel this way. And you began to rationalize how you really feel. There is a reason. I remember one night I was in here. We had a minister's class. I got very, very ill. I don't know if you guys remember that. I got real sick. I was seeing when you guys were sick. And what happened was it was my blood pressure. I had not eaten none of that. And I had got me a little water. And I think you got me some water. But anyway, I was like, Lord, I ain't ready yet. I mean, I'm ready, but I'm not. Y'all know what I'm saying. It ain't time yet. I ain't trying to go nowhere just yet. I'm sitting back there. I'm like, what's going on? You know, I was. So in that moment, does anybody out here, or if whoever was here, do they know how I was feeling more so than I know? So what you look like, Pastor, coming to me? Hey, wait a minute. Get on the you know what I'm saying? And I'm about to die. I'm still about to die. You know, so as spouses, we have to listen and not only listen, the one that's actually having the feelings, you got to trust that. You can't talk yourself out of that. When I was laying out on the little chairs there, I was not talking to myself saying, I'm all right, ain't nothing wrong with me. I was not saying that. I'm trying to figure out what I need to do to get better because I know I'm feeling some kind of way. So it is with the emotions that we deal with husband and wife. You feeling some kind of way because of some external stimuli that's got to do with your husband or got to do with your wife. You got to trust it. It goes on here to say, they may think they are overreacting or being too sensitive. That's what Robert said to Kathy. Come on now. You're just being too sensitive about this thing. This is not true, though. This is not true. It is your perception of how you're feeling. Your feelings are valid, even the negative ones. Your feelings are valid, even the negative ones like hurt, disappointment, and anger. Allow yourself to feel these things so you can voice them to your partner. Kathy been talking to Robert 15 years. She's been voicing it to Robert. So we got to go beyond that. Something else got to be done because she done a lot of talking. Remember that you are half of the marriage. Your feelings, even those of resentment, are just as important as your spouse's feelings. I'm going to pause right there. Any comments on trust yourself in your feelings? Any comments, any questions or anything at this point before we go to number 2?
I remember a lot of times where I think I dismissed feelings. But now...
Your feelings or your wife's feelings?
Her feelings.
Her feelings, okay.
I joke a lot and I'll say this and that. But now it's as, you live together according to knowledge.
That's it.
And so now, I say, so, oh, did that really hurt your feelings? And she said, yes, then I got to shift gears.
Okay.
So if it's serious to you, now it's serious to me.
Absolutely.
I got to shift, like, okay, wait, okay. Like, no, that hurt your feelings, girl. Yes, that hurt my, okay, break down.
Absolutely.
This ain't a ha-ha funny moment no more. This is turned serious. So I need to take it serious and not stay ha-ha funny. Because now she's feeling some kind of way, so I don't, this turn into resentment. So I'm gonna deal with it in the seriousness that she has now.
Yes,
instead
sir.
of continue to dismiss it with a ha-ha funny. So, you know, you have to learn that though.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's right. To dismiss it with a ha-ha funny, you're not taking her serious. I'm not taking Monica serious if I ha-ha dismiss it when she is serious about what she's feeling and what she's saying to me. And it goes both ways. It's a two-way thing. It goes both ways.
Yeah, when I say, I'm serious about this, when I change
That tone.
Like, whoa, okay, all right. Okay, that means I want you to get serious about this too.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah,
So let's
absolutely.
let's get on the same plane and work on that same plane.
That's exactly right. Any other comments on that? Then we're going to go on to number 2. Number 2 says, determine if your feelings are resentment. Now, you feeling some kind of way. In Kathy and Robert's example, I'm almost 100% sure she's on the resentment level. But before you get to the level of resentment, you can be on the path, but not quite resenting your actual mate. Resenting some of the things that they do is a little bit different from actually resenting your mate. Anytime a person is in a relationship, okay, all right, I'm gonna say it. Anytime a person is in a relationship and they stay at work and don't want to come home, they like working overtime, ain't trying to come home because the mate is there, you might be in the area of resentment. I know people, couples, I do a lot of counseling. Pastor, you do too. You know a lot of counseling. I know people that say, I'd rather be at work than to be at home. What is that? What is that? You are in the field, if you're not in it, in resentment. Determine if your feelings are resentment. As you analyze your feelings, as you talk about your feelings, eventually you're going to get to the point where you're going to actually know. Because when you're frowning, you're sighing, don't want to see them coming, you get off at 5, you say you ain't coming home till 7, and the person at home is happy about that. Okay, that's fine. You can make it 8 o'clock if you want to. Those are symptoms. Some people in a marriage think that they are falling out of love with their spouse, and I think I touched on that a few moments ago. Falling out of love with their spouse when actually they feel resentment. Don't want to mix the two. This resentment can make you angry at the other person, not want to be around the other person, or think there are no feelings of love anymore. To determine if you are feeling resentment, take an honest assessment of your feelings. You know, I can lie to each and every one of y'all in here about just about anything I want to. I can. But can I truly lie to myself? I could probably tell myself a lie, but I ain't gonna believe it because I know it's a lie. If that makes sense. If that makes sense. I could tell myself anything that is a lie, but I immediately think to myself, now, you know you're lying to yourself, right? I know this, so I'm gonna be truthful to myself, but to you guys, I could pretty much just say whatever I want to and try to get you to believe in a lie that I'm telling. Just tell you just about basically Anything. To determine if you are feeling resentment, take an honest assessment. So an honest assessment, don't lie to yourself. Be truthful to yourself, because now we're about to get to the point where we're talking to our partner about our assessment. Are there things that your partner has done that have led you to feel unappreciated, disappointed, angry, or hurt? Are there problems in your relationship that you haven't discussed? Is the answer to these questions a yes? You could be in the area of resentment.
So the feelings of you're falling out of love with your mate, to just say, well, I don't love you.
So that is very close to resentment.
It could be resentment.
It could be resentment, meaning you still love them.
You still love them, but because they have done so much, yes.
Unfair treatment. So I resent you, but I'm getting mixed up with I don't love you no more.
Right. And I've heard that many a times. Now, if someone is operating in unconditional love, you are operating in agape love. I can operate in agape love. I love you in a godly love, but I don't like how you treat me. I don't love nothing about how you are treating me. Therefore, now I'm loving you. God said, I owe no man but to love. But in loving you, I don't have to accept and be all happy about the way that you're treating me.
Didn't you teach on this when loving you is killing me?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
Or hurting me or killing me.
Killing me, hurting me, yeah.
Yes, when loving you is killing me.
It's killing me. That's deep. That's deep.
That is.
I can think about baby boy. I hate you, Joey.
What was that?
Maybe think about the movie Baby Boy.
Oh, yeah. When loving you, that's good, Pastor. We did do a segment on that. Loving you is just so hard. It's killing me to love you because of the way you treat me.
Yeah.
But I love you, but it's hard. It's difficult.
It's God and us.
Sir?
That's God and us.
Yes. 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 So, you've got to determine that thing. Do an honest assessment. Am I in the area of resentment? And you will know. You will know. All right. Number 3. Listen to your partner's concerns. I touched on that a few moments ago in the introduction. Kathy and Robert. Was Robert hearing Kathy? Robert was not hearing Kathy. Kathy done told Robert over and over and over and over and over again about these big ticket items. How do you think a mate feel when you done told your mate over and over again about something that bothers you, but you keep doing it? I tell Monica something over and over again that bothers me. Every few weeks or a couple of months or so, she do the same thing that she know bothers me. After a while, I'm going to begin to think you could care less about how I feel. So now I'm wondering, I'm talking about the love now. God said in his word, if you love me, if I'm not asking nothing unreasonable of Monica, something just outright crazy, what is your reason for not obliging what I want? All I said, stop buying all them things. That's all I said. Stop buying all these big ticket items without at least talking to me. So if that was our case, and I said that to Monica, but Monica continues to buy big ticket items, I'm beginning to start thinking some kind of way now. Okay. You're going to keep on doing what you want to do. You're going to keep on buying what you want to buy. So now all kind of stuff going through my mind, you don't care nothing about how I feel. You could care less about what I'm thinking. But on the other hand, if you're listening to me, if you're really listening to me, when you really listen, you do better. When you really listen and want to do better, you do better. You can say you're listening to me all day long. If I don't see a change in action, okay. Robert says, okay, all right, Cat, all right. I hear what you're saying. I am not going to purchase anything else. This was the month of March. The month of March, that's what he says. The month of June, Kathy comes home, open the garage, a motorcycle sitting in there. Kathy didn't know nothing about the motorcycle. Now, she just said in March, he just said in March, I hear what you're saying, I understand what you're saying, I understand your concern, I will do better. If the behavior doesn't change, you could care less about how I'm feeling. Doesn't even matter. Let me read my notes on number 3. Listen to your partner's concerns. Did you have something, John?
I would say, so he heard her, but he wasn't listening to her.
There's a difference here.
But he wasn't listening to her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Then it looks like it could have been for her.
Hey, that's probably what he told her.
Trying to get out of it. Yeah.
Exactly. So, listen to your partner's concern. Part of dealing with resentment is listening to your partner. You can't deal with resentment and the issues that lead to the resentment if you don't listen to each other's problems and feelings. Though it may be hard to hear, you weren't listening, John. Though it may be hard to hear, take a step back and objectively listen to what your partner has to say. Listening to your partner, even if you feel resentment also, helps you work through the problem and reach a solution. Refusing to listen leads to more resentment and can eventually lead to the end of the marriage. Refusing to listen. Questions on that? Listening to your partner's concern.
Out of this 15 years, I'm surprised that Kathy didn't get no get back. I'm surprised that she didn't say, okay, after year 5 or 6, okay, all right, I got a couple big ticket items I'm gonna get.
Mm-hmm.
And spend up a bunch of money, and then when it's time for him to get a big ticket item, ain't no money there. Now you know how I feel.
You know what? Many people, I would imagine, feel that way. Okay. Until I let you know how this feels, you ain't gonna never be able to get with me. You ain't gonna never be able to get with me. So, okay, when you come home, you know, but is that the right thing to do? I understand the thought process behind it, but it's don't make that.
That's not the right thing to do, but that's how a lot of people get their don't pool their resources together.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of married couples, you pay the light bill, you pay this because they can't trust the other mate because they still living a single life within the marriage.
Yeah, that's true. That's so true. Yeah.
And usually one is a saver and one is a spender. I don't know how those two always seem to get together.
Mm-hmm.
You very seldom get two spenders together.
Yeah. Boy, it'll be rough if you get two spinners together, boy. Woo! I thought you paid this morning. No, I thought you paid. Yeah.
That's right.
All right. So it's important to listen. Show me, okay, I've erred, I've done wrong, I've made you feel some kind of way. Now it's up to me to listen to what you're saying about feeling this resentful feeling. Now it's up to me to do something about it. I got to go to work. I got to work if I am the one that's making you feel some kind of way because I love you. I'm in love with you. I don't want to see you hurt, so I got to change my behavior. Number 4. All right. Kathy feeling some kind of way because of Robert. Big ticket items. Let's not blame. Use I statements. You know how they say, you add fuel to the fire when you come at somebody on the same level that they are on. Somebody, they say 38 hot. I know they angry. They just mad. And you come at them matching that. Nothing is going to get resolved. Nothing is going to get resolved. Number 4 says, hey, Kathy, let's not, even though it's clear in that example that Robert got some problems. That is very clear. But Kathy said, I'm going to take the high road. I'm not going to even blame you. I'm not going to blame you because I don't want you to get defensive on me. So instead of me blaming you because you already know you out there buying up everything and we got some issues and now I don't trust you with the money like I'm supposed to trust you with the money. Let's not blame, use I statements. Robert, now I'm Kathy. Robert, this is how. Now she's been doing this for a while now. This is how I feel when you do this. This is how I feel when you bring it. So I want you to have some type of feeling of, now you're only doing it through words though. Pastor Vanna, you guys were saying a few moments ago, sometimes it takes actually showing than telling. Through words, Kathy says, this is how I feel when you go out and do these things. Versus, I get tired every time I come home. You done did this. Every other month, you done done this. You done thought this. You. Versus, I feel this way. This is what, you say you love me. You say you love me. You say you're in love with me. You say it's us. Me and you against the world. But you can watch me suffer. You can watch me cry at night over the dumb stuff you're doing toward us, and you continue to do it. I'm questioning now, do you really love me? Mm-hmm. Do you really love me? So I statements, let me look at my notes. I statements. When you discuss your resentment, talking Kathy and Robert now, we talking. When you discuss your resentment, you may feel inclined to place blame on Robert, on the person. This generally leads to more problems, anger, and resentment. When you talk to your spouse, use I statements to bring up issues. This helps you avoid accusing your spouse of things. Like I said, it's clear. We know what's going on in the relationship. Yes.
Well, maybe Kathy did that the first 10 years.
Okay.
And it didn't work. So at this point, she's done that already. So at this point, it's gotten to the point where, you know what, I'm tired of telling you the same thing. You keep doing the same thing over and over and over. So it might have gone from the I statements to the latter.
Mm-hmm. It could be. It could be. Now, is it wrong for Kathy to show him versus telling him? Because you're right. She could have been talking for quite some time. Is it wrong, though?
15 years is time to show.
Okay. No, I mean, I get that. Will that make a difference? Potentially. Possibly. Is Kathy wrong for showing? I don't think she's wrong for showing. I don't. Pastor, do you think, is she wrong for showing him what she's been feeling all this time?
You might say, oh, because she pull up in a Jaguar. And you ain't tell me you get no Jaguar. You know you got a Jaguar. You know how fast you can't afford no Jaguar. So you just got a motorcycle. You can't afford no Jaguar.
Right.
And she said, oh, not knowing all along she test driving. Make point. Like that. So this is what you do to me. You know, sometimes you know, just say, for me, sometimes we be a little thick-headed.
Yes, sir.
We can be a little thick-headed. You have to, you know, kind of draw it out for us, you know, like caveman style.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, then we like, oh, that's what you've been saying. Because we have gotten good at tuning out the words.
Sure. Because the words, they go forth, but after a while, we're going to be all right. And after a while, it's going to be all right. I don't disagree with you. I don't. Sometimes it does take showing, because they say seeing is believing, the old cliche, seeing is believing, until for some people, I talk to God a lot of times about things that God, you don't have to break me down to my brake pads to get anything to me. You don't have to do that. You ain't got to. You just talk to me. That's all you got to do is just talk to me. But some people, God, I think you preached on that. Sometimes God, to get your attention, you talked about that. Sometimes God's okay. Children of Israel, you just ain't gonna do right. So sometimes, like I said, I'm not disagreeing with you. Sometimes it gets to the point where, okay, I can show you better than I can tell you. Okay. You just went to McDonald's. You couldn't buy a value meal, could you? Couldn't buy a value meal. Because I took all the money.
There's a book that's being read by somebody we know. It said how divorce saved my marriage. So she actually had to go through that process. All, I mean, just and be serious about going through. I don't think it ever got there, did it? Did it actually get there? Yeah. Okay, did it? Okay, they actually. Okay.
They got back together.
Yeah.
Reality setting in.
Yes.
And there are people, sometimes it takes that, until your point. Sometimes it takes that.
That's showing.
Now, I got to show you, because I've been talking for years. Got to show you. Good point. Anybody else?
Or it could be just recognizing weakness.
Recognizing
weakness. So
Mm-hmm.
in other words, he's showing weakness and he's shopping.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be something that, they can go and get counseling for.
He got a shopping addiction.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm glad you said that, because it's one thing when you know why something is being done. You can work with it when you know why something is. If someone has some type of condition, a mind condition, anything like that, that's causing them to do things that may be a little bit abnormal, now you're seeing they ain't just being defiant. It's something going on. I can work with that. So if that is the condition, something happening mentally, hey, maybe we need to go and talk to somebody. Maybe we need to get some type of counseling or whatever. But it's a different story if you're doing it just because you feel like you can. Yeah, different story.
Probably ain't gonna agree to the counseling.
Probably what?
Robert probably won't agree to counseling, because as you're talking about this, I'm not just for the sake of argument, I'm looking at what Robert feeling through this whole process too.
What is Robert feeling?
Robert building up some resentment too.
Okay.
Because you know me, we've been together all these years, and you still nagging me about the same stuff.
You on the next page. You on the next page, but you're right. You're right. Yeah. And that's his
Perception.
Yeah. All right. Robert says, you nagging me. You've been knowing we've been together all this time. You've been knowing this. So what you're saying then, Robert, is that you will not afford me the leeway to have a change of mind or a change of heart. I'm not worth enough to you to change your mindset about this spending. Yeah. Hey, I knew that from the get-go. But as we mature in life, what I needed 15 years ago, the conversation we had 15 years ago, the things we did 15 years ago, I'm 15 years older. Maturity, different things have happened, wisdom and all of this. So what you're saying is that we can evolve together. You still want to live the mindset 15 years ago, into the future 15 years later.
That'd be smart.
And keeping in mind, Kathy's not saying, don't go out there and buy anything. Kathy's saying, can we discuss it?
That's all she's saying. That's it.
Because if we discuss it, we may say, well, you know what, we got this bill we have to pay, and let's do that later. He may say, okay, I forgot about that bill.
Exactly.
So she's not saying don't go get it.
But what is he hearing though? You're right. That's what she said. She's saying
You can't have it.
that's all he needs. That's all he needs. I can't get my motorcycle. I can't get my rims. I can't get the, you know. Shoot, I work like everybody else. You mean I can't go out and...
And all that spending, did he buy her something?
On her birthday, he bought something. On Christmas, Valentine's, he bought something. I hope so. I hope so.
He a man story long.
All right. Number 5. Before we go to number 5, what do y'all have? Any comments? Any concerns before we go to number 5? What you say?
Hanging there, Rob.
Hanging there. He's still hanging so far.
Hanging there, cat.
Oh.
Robert seemed to be doing fine.
Robert get what he wants now.
Robert get what he wants.
Yeah. Okay. Pray. Prayer, it's hard for me to be mad at pastor, angry. I'm talking about angry at pastor and pray for him at the same time. Y'all hear what I just said? It's hard for me to have resentment for my wife because whatever she's doing that I'm feeling somewhat resentful, and I pray for her. I pray for us. It's difficult, almost impossible for me to have all this heaviness and all this anger on me and all this on me, and I'm praying for her. Prayer, when they say it's people have relegated it to a cliche and an adage and all this kind of stuff, but it's true. Prayer changes things. It does. True, the effectual fervent prayer of the righteous man availeth much. True, genuine prayer changes things. If Robert and Kathy come together, now Robert probably in the beginning ain't trying to pray about that. Cause I bet that's probably what you're thinking right now. Robert probably ain't trying to pray about nothing. But if he will agree to get with Kathy and let Kathy pray, and he just listen. He just listened and let her hear her crying out to God about their situation. And in the prayer, she's praying for Robert as well. And she hear this. How is it that this woman has been receiving all of this unfair treatment, and she finds it in her heart to still pray for him? And she hear it. She hear it. Over time, when it says prayer changes things, over time, constantly praying together. And I'm going to tell you, when that breakthrough comes, is when Robert said, let me pray this time. Robert said this time, let me pray this time. You will know prayer is changing. Prayer is changing things. Pray together. Let me read my notes on that. Okay, it's 8 o'clock. I'm going to finish this up, and I may have to do a continuation. I know I ain't going to finish all of that, but I'm about to put a little bow on it, and if I have to do a continuation, it's fine. Prayer is a powerful tool to simultaneously build. Simultaneously. What does simultaneously mean? Same time. Come on together at the same time. Prayer is a powerful tool to simultaneously build a stronger faith and a stronger marriage. First off, when you are praying for someone, God has a way of softening your heart toward that person. Here we go. It is difficult to remain mad at someone you're praying for. It's difficult to remain mad at someone you're praying for. Secondly, God often uses our prayers to change our own perspective. God begins to work in you, and you begin to see it differently. You begin to see things through his eyes. And when you begin to see things through his eyes, he said that our thoughts are not his thoughts. His thoughts are far above our thoughts. When you begin to pray and he begins to show you things through his eyes, now you're looking at the whole situation a little bit differently. He sustains you in that. Finally, I believe that God can use prayers to supernaturally make a difference in a situation when nothing else seems to be working. Pray for each other. You might be the only person that is actually praying in your relationship. So, pray for each other. So, if I had to just sum up everything tonight, and I'm about to close, play me out, Nick. Y'all, some of y'all don't get it. In my closing, resentment is very serious. It is very, very serious. When you go from resenting something, the motorcycle, resenting something that someone has done, to resenting that person, that is very, very serious. And it's up to the person to hear you out, to listen to those concerns, because eventually it could potentially get to the point where the marriage ends. It could get to that point. A person can only go so long with feeling like this, especially by someone that profess out their mouth that you love me. I can deal with the man on the street, the woman on the street. That ain't, like y'all hear me say all the time, I ain't gonna lose no sleep, and I definitely ain't gonna stop eating. None of that, But now, for my wife, the one that I'm in love with, that says she loves me, I might drop a few pounds. I might lose a little sleep because I'm in love. I love her, and we got to work this thing out. So, resentment is very, very serious. And if you feel like you're on that path or been on that path, there are some things that you can do to get off that path. And if you know someone that have entrusted things that are going on with them, have entrusted you, hey, hope is not all lost. It is not all lost. So, questions, comments before we close out? Any questions, comments? No?
I like how you added Kathy and Robert in the beginning, so the flow went. We're talking about Kathy and Robert and the difference. Talking about that.
Okay. Yeah, you get a visual, a story, and then you can kind of parallel them to our own lives.
That's right.
Yeah.
That was good.
Okay, well, hey, that's all we got for tonight, and I'm going to pray about the rest of it. But that's all we have for tonight. Thank you for your time. All right.